Committee. I have with me Counselor at Large Ana Levy, our Council President from District F, Mark LaPlante, and myself as the Chair. Before we start today's meeting, I am going to read the following. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021, this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting in progress can do so through Facebook or YouTube as well. Before we begin, if you can join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance, to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. So we'll begin tonight's session, and we're going to skip item for now, item 244-21, and we'll move straight to 246-21. Order to expand grant funds, library initiative for teens and tweens, youth and family literacy. And we have for $10,000, and we have today Cassandra, who's going to be speaking to us.
Good evening, counselors. Thank you. So the grant that we have here presented is the Library Initiative for Teens and Tweens in the amount of $10,000. This will go towards programming and related services and within programming to youth and families in the community, which will also be led by our literacy coordinator.
Counselors, are there any questions?
Yes.
Councilor Levy?
Can you explain a little bit about the program, please?
So the Library Initiative for Teens and Tweens, this is actually another grant that we have received from them. Initially, we actually received a grant from them to fund programming, purchase new items in the teen corner. And this year we were awarded $10,000 for our literacy program that we are working with our literacy coordinator on. The literacy coordinator is going to be the lead pretty much for providing literacy services. Our big partner is going to be with the public schools to really, build on coming up with programming for young folks, all the way to families, just to provide basic literacy needs, so we can expand on that.
So you just to buy, did you say that it's going to be for using to buy what?
For programming purposes. So whether we're having a program or just supplies needed for an event that is taking place with families and children, we would use these funds to also to purchase these items.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilors, are there any other questions?
No.
Nope. Is there a motion?
Motion to send to the full council with a favor recommendation.
Second. There's been a motion sent to full council with favor recommendation. It has been second, and we will now call for a vote. Before I begin, I just want to make sure, Council President, is there someone in the audience taking notes? I don't see Maria here.
No, as soon as you're saying this, I am looking. Pat Waters is supposed to be joining us, and this is probably her first meeting back, and trying to help us out. And I am what I'm going to do as soon as this vote is taken. We can either recess, or I'm going to call her, and she's probably watching this, and I think she should get the codes and be with us. So I'm noticing that as you are. So it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to call the roll and then recess, and then I can contact her.
So Council President, we'll do that. So we'll call the roll. I'll call it. Councilor Ana Levy.
Yes.
Councilor LaPlante.
Yes.
And Counselor Rodriguez is not here, and Counselor Abdu they're both absent for the moment, and the chair votes in affirmative, so this motion passes. Is there a
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
Little update, Mr. Chairman. I am told that she's actually watching this meeting on Facebook. So she is actually recording the meeting. So she's with us.
Perfect. The amazing power of technology. So, all right. So we are moving on. Cassandra, you are going to be up again. So it's item 247-21, order to expend grant funds, TDI Creative Catalyst Grant for $5,000.
Thank you again. This is just additional funds to support the existing Lawrence Arts Collective that's being developed through the Creative Catalyst Grant that we had received earlier in the year. So this $5,000 would go to support costs for hosting a Merrimack College Fellow, which would be the arts coordinator for the Lawrence Arts Collective project. And this $5,000 would support that position in a fellowship role up until the project is complete.
Counselors, are there any questions? Seeing that there aren't any, well, so before I get there, Cassandra, I just want to thank you, Jessica, and the rest of the staff for taking on these incredible initiatives. I think that most people, when they think of libraries, they solely only think about books. They don't think about some of the other programs that you've all been doing to make the library this space that folks are comfortable being in, and that it's appealing to come in and read a book. And besides reading books, I think the library taking such a primary role in trying to reinforce and promote art and culture within the city, that makes perfect sense to me. To the point that I met someone today at one of the a fundraiser I was in for the YWCA, and someone who's doing yoga at the library. And I was like, oh, wow. So libraries doing those type of activities. So there's a lot that we hear that you're doing from what you guys are putting out, and, for you coming to the city council, asking for these grants, we're able to get pieces of the amazing work that you do. And I just want to, just take a moment and just say thank you to you and Jess and everyone else for all that amazing work. So anyways, counselors,
thank you.
Are there any motions?
Motion to send it to the full council. What's favor recommendation?
There was a motion to send to the full council with favor recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion's been seconded by Counselor Rodriguez. We will now call for a vote. Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor LaPlante. And the chair votes in affirmative. Thank you so much, Cassandra.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
All right, so we are now moving to item 244-21, fiscal year 2022 property tax classification public hearing. And we have Alexi Vega, our chief assessor, who is here to give a presentation. Alexi?
Yes, thank you, councilors. I'm going to try to share my screen now and start the presentation. Give me a second. There we go. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So every year around this time, the assessors have to put a packet together for the city councilors in order to start the tax classification process. This is a requirement by the state in order to adopt a tax rate, which the city councilors has done for many years. So again, this is the beginning process. The full tax classification hearing will take place sometime in November, and I'm hoping after this meeting that we can refer this item down to the full council with or without a favorable recommendation in order to order a public hearing. And this presentation will be provided again. We can have further discussions, or any items you want to discuss after the fact. We can put the presentation a little bit broader for the folks at home. But before I present this, I'd like to recognize the assessor's office. Their dedication and hard work and professionalism throughout this calendar year has been tremendous, and it's been greatly appreciated. So our staff consists of Rita Dow, Maria Halloran, Vieira Cardora, and the folks at Real Estate Research Consultants who have been with us for over 30 years and have done an amazing job. So the state on Monday certified the city's FY22 values and new growth totals. The first couple of slides are narratives, but you're going to get a snapshot of the entire classification and where we're going to head with the potential tax rate moving forward. So this is for your edification. You can read it at home, but the slides get a little bit more detailed information. So the purpose of this hearing is for the city council again to adopt a tax factor, which will ultimately split the tax rate from a single rate to a split rate for residential and commercial. In doing so, the ultimate goal is to release the tax burden to the residential class and shifting what we're going to raise in the tax levy amount to the commercial, industrial, and personal property. The maximum you can shift in any given year is 1.75. During the FY22 interim year adjustments, we had to use calendar year 2020 sales. As you know, in this market, the sales have increased year over year, and that was our basis for determining how much we're going to raise property values, whether it's a single, condo, commercial, industrial, et cetera. We use those values to determine and submit those numbers to the state for certification. And what we found was we were below our assessment requirements, and we had to increase them from last year of $5.2 billion to $5.8 billion. This is an 11.9% increase over last year, and a breakdown of each class. 4 major classes: the residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property are listed here. What the impact was for the single family homeowner on a valuation standpoint was their value increased 13.2%. And again, this is to meet the state standard, minimum standard of 100% of full and fair cash market value. So if you have own a single family home in the city of Lawrence, you definitely have some serious equity, and not that, you're going to use it, but at least you have some equity so that you can buy some fun stuff for you and your family. So the median sale prices have increased for both singles and condominiums and continue to rise for the next couple of years. This slide number 5 breaks down the 3-year comparison of the entire class of properties: residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property, the total assessment per each class, and the difference from year over year. And the bottom slide gives you a great snapshot of where the values have been going year over year, from $5.8 billion, and just over 2 years ago was $4.8 billion. And the taxing levy increase has gone up slightly from last year. This is what the budget called for during the summer months when you adopted the budget, was to increase it from last year's 79 million and not raise Proposition 2.5, and only increase it by the new growth amount, which was certified. And you'll see that in the next slide here. So the levy amount that I just talked about that you raised last year was 79 million. That amount is the amount of money you raised through taxes in FY21. In order to increase the levy amount, you can raise it by 2.5, Proposition 2.5, which gives you a taxing capacity or a levy limit that you cannot exceed according to the Department of Revenue. So applying Proposition 2.5 to the levy limit, not the levy limit that you could have raised last year, brings you to an extra taxing capacity of $2.1 million. In addition to raising taxes, the state allows you to raise new growth. And the new growth amount is basically, definition is anything that was not previously assessed in the prior fiscal year. So that could be new construction, the mill building conversions from commercial to residential, exempt properties back onto the tax rolls. You have significant amount of personal property accounts that are existing that purchase new equipment. That's added to the tax roll, and that's considered new growth. And we reported these figures to the state, and ultimately the state certified on Monday a new growth amount of $2.2 million. This is the slide number 7. I'll give you the historic new growth amounts year over year. And in the last 3 years, we have record high new growth totals. Again, one of the larger new growth totals was in 2020. And that was because of the Columbia Gas personal property equipment that they purchased and what the work they did in the South Lawrence area due to the Columbia gas disaster. Again, they did more additional work, and this is the $3 million that you see here, and the new construction that has been going on. In 2022, they slowed down a little bit, but we still captured roughly $10 million in new growth. They reported to us, and we also included the tax increment financing agreements who have been, construction has been going on. Their TIF agreements have been maturing year over year, and we only have about 7 TIF agreements in the city. So this has been a very good sign for the city that the new growth numbers continues to rise. And it's great to see. Here, if we do not adopt the factor, if the city council or the city of Lawrence had a single rate, this is where you would be at, because the only formula that we would need would be the levy amount divided by the overall value of $5.8 billion would give you a single rate of $13.87. But we all know that would be a detriment to the residential homeowners in the city of Lawrence because their tax bills was increased significantly. And I did a quick math analysis, and the single family home would see, with this, a single rate would see a tax increase in just this year of $762. The commercial will see a tax break of roughly $5,500. So again, the tax factor that we'll be voting for in November will definitely continue to help the residential homeowners in the city of Lawrence. Let me move the slide here. Slide number 9 give you a historical shifting that the factor that the city council adopted year over year. As you can see, the city councils have never adopted anything lower than a 1.71. And I believe that could be that, the property values for the commercial significantly increased during that time period. But again, I would have to look at the numbers. But historically, we've had shifted to the maximum capacity over the last 6 years. And this has been a great savings to those who live in the city of Lawrence. Here's slide number 10 gives you a snapshot of what the levy amount and how we calculate it and how the budget can be determined in any one given year. The DOR uses the levy limit from the prior year. In this case, what they did was take the levy limit amount of $85 million. Again, we did not raise that money. We did not raise Proposition 2.5. All we did was raise new growth last year. And as we did the same in this year's budget. So what the DOR uses is the levy limit amount from prior year is $85 million. Multiply Proposition 2.5. This is the maximum amount you can raise by 2.5%, and new growth. So it's last year's levy 2.5 plus new growth gives you a total levy limit taxing capacity of roughly $89 million. Again, the city did not raise $89 million and is only raising $81.5 million. So we have an excess levy capacity of $8.1 million, which is a beautiful thing to see, seeing that we have a balanced budget year over year. The average single-family homeowner historically is the largest single class of properties in the city of Lawrence, like 4,288 parcels at a valuation of roughly $1.3 billion. And the average tax bill is assessment is $319,000, and the tax rate, if you were to adopt again the maximum factor of 1.75, will reduce the tax rate significantly. But ultimately, because we are raising $2 million in taxes, the tax bill will increase slightly, and you'll be able to see that in the next 6 slides. As I mentioned, you can adopt a factor of 1, which is a single rate. Cities historically have never done that. We've always had a split rate since the 1980s. So the shifting the tax burden to 1.70 will be the lowest that the residential homeowners will see in a tax savings, as you would, because we are raising tax dollars. So a factor 1.70 will increase a single-family homeowner's tax bill by $255. Condominiums will see an increase of $151, and 2 families, $200, 3 families of $400. The commercial will see a tax break of $19, and the industrial will see a tax break of $2,731. And the next few slides, you'll see these amounts. The residential side decrease and the commercial increase. So I'm just going to shoot from 170 to 175, and I'll do it slowly so you can see the as the tax rate goes down every time we choose a different factor, and the tax bills for residential continue to go down roughly about $9, $10. So 1.75 is the maximum you can shift the tax burden to the commercial side. So here you will see average single family homeowner see a tax increase of $204, while the industrial will see a tax break of $1,742. And that's I want to just point out that savings there is one huge project we have going on in South Lawrence, which is the Salapoli construction of a 3-story garage with a playing field on top and offices on the side. That impacted the values significantly, and it was only 1 parcel. So just to give you a sense of where that number came from. And also look at the tax difference, huge tax reductions for the for the residential and the CIP. And again, that's attributable to the values significantly increasing. Here's a snapshot of all those 6 slides. Again, residential 1.75 tax rate, average single family home bill, tax bill, and the increase. Shifting over to the commercial side, here's the 1.75, the mill rate, the actual average tax bill, and the tax increase for commercial. So this concludes the hearing. And again, what I'm asking for this evening is for the city councilors and the budget finance subcommittee to refer this item to the full council and there to order a public hearing. And we're anticipating hopefully that the hearing will take place on November 16th on a regularly scheduled city council meeting. Therefore, we can get our recap certified by the Department of Revenue and get our tax bills generated, exemptions included on the bills, and the water liens attached to the bill. So the bills go out by January 1, which is the deadline. This concludes the presentation, and I'll take any questions. And this is our contact. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm noticing that our chair, David Abdu, is here. So want to officially give Chairman Abdu back the gavel.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Payano, and my apologies to everyone for being late. The day job spilled into the evening job. So I appreciate your patience and indulgence. As I come up to speed, I'd ask colleagues if they have questions. I'm sure we have questions. And I know we are joined this evening by you, Councilor Payano, Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor Levy, and I believe We had Council LaPlante earlier. Are there questions? Or motions?
I have a question.
Council Rodriguez, floor is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. Mr. Vega, we last year we didn't raise taxes with Proposition 2.5. But yes, we have a new growth of $2.2 million. How, compared to previous year, this new growth means to the current budget? Obviously, we have the gas explosion, which Columbia Gas have a new equipment, but compared to other years, other than the Columbia Gas crisis, and when they doing the new construction, perhaps 3 years ago, how that $2.2 million impact the budget in a way that basically a lot of the money that it was going to bring, if the city was going to be, taxing to the people, is now a new growth and is not reflecting necessarily on the taxes for the properties.
Right. So the Columbia Gas obviously increased the new growth in the last 3 years, but the average increase for new growth over the prior years, pre the Columbia Gas disaster, was hovering around $1.5 million. Again, Columbia Gas isn't the only utilities that replace their old equipment. We do have significant, we have actually 3 utilities, which is Mass Electric, we have Verizon, and we have Comcast, all generating up in the $5 million range. We also have the tax increment finance agreements. Again, there were 7 of them that contributed to the new growth totals, and huge constructions in the mill buildings, huge. We're adding more apartments to the tax rolls. We have new construction everywhere you turn, but Columbia Gas hasn't been our only contributing factor for the new growth. It's just exceeding what we've raised over the prior years, and they're tailing off. I don't anticipate that they will be reporting these record-setting numbers next year. That's not what we're going to be witnessing moving forward.
Okay, so all the things are happening in the city of Lawrence that is not just Columbia Gas, like in the last 3 years.
Correct.
Basically, that's the takeoff out of that statement, right?
Correct. Give you one example of New Balance. New Balance had a 15-year TIF. Their tier or their percentage off anything over the base was dropped significantly. It was 1 year dropped like 50% of their full and fair cash market value. So that was a huge impact to the new growth and their individual tax bill. We do have, again, 7 more TIF agreements, but their new growth numbers aren't significant as like a New Balance or a Washington Mills, who had their percentages of discounts drop significantly. Salapoli's buildings are not 100% complete, although he has TIF agreements. So we look to add all those new constructions. I believe he has 3 phases in his residential mill buildings. Phase 1 is 100% complete. Phase 2 is 60% complete, and phase 3 hasn't even started.
Okay. So now I want to go to the second page from your presentation.
Sure, I'm just going to slide away. Second page?
Yeah, the second page. Yes, on the last paragraph, there is 110 communities that have the same type of taxation, which is a split, just like Lawrence. I have conversations with other city councilors from other municipalities that they don't have that type of taxation, and a lot of people have their own opinion about this type of things. Obviously, the city of Lawrence is looking forward to not necessarily tax the most vulnerable. Instead, we prefer to since 1982 prefer to split the tax between the commercial and residential, and 170 to 175 percentage wise. So how this split tax system that we have in the system and the Lawrence benefit, I would like you to iterate more on that. How does that benefit the residents of the city of Lawrence? And on the other hand, I would like to also talk about, how we probably lose commercial ground that not necessarily are coming to those communities that have that type of system.
Right. So as I mentioned, if you do not choose to adopt a split rate, all right, the valuation is 80-20. And it has been 80% residential, 20% commercial for many, 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 many years. If you do not continue to choose a split rate, you are gonna definitely have the residential taxpayers are gonna see a significant tax bill increase, because year over year, city councils continue to increase the levy amount. Okay, and that's gonna continue going for many years. Regardless if we don't raise to the full maximum capacity, we are raising new growth year over year. So not only are the taxpayers going to see a $800 increase this year, if you choose a single rate, they're going to see it moving forward. And it's not.
No, and the point is not to choose a single rate. That's not the point. My point is to explain like the benefit of it, as of why we're doing it, and then also when it comes to the commercial, how those companies probably don't see us as an attractive community because we have this type of system that we have, which is a split that charge the commercial more.
Right. This split rate decision, it's probably not the best person to comment on it. This is a political matter. The assessors have nothing to do with the split rate. All we do is determine the valuation. But I don't see, commercial businesses or entities not coming into the city because we have a high split rate. Methuen, at the end of Haverhill, Lowell, all have a split rate. Although our rate per mill is slightly higher, you can see what their taxing capabilities are. Their levy amount is significantly higher than Lawrence. They're taxing to their limit, where we're fortunate enough not to. So these companies may choose to go to, surrounding communities, but we offer more attractive benefits, and you have done it for many years in the tax increment financing programs that you offer. And then now in the last year, you're offering tie agreements, tax increment exemptions, which are beneficial to the new businesses that are coming on board. You do have a major player in the South Lawrence area, Unitex, which is a industrial company that came from New York that manufactures or does all their linens, and they're a huge company with mega investments of up to the tune of $30 to $50 million, and they chose Lawrence. And we have a significant amount of space, not just in the mill buildings, but in the end of the street corridor. So we try to make it attractive to these folks with how much we raise in the levy amount every single year.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what you're saying. The city of Lawrence have a split rate taxation system that allows people to benefit, the residents or the homeowners to benefit from it. But also when it comes to commercial, which that's basically what I wanted to get, is that we as a city of Lawrence probably have a split tax rate, but the valuation of the commercial properties here are not as high as other places, and also the per footage rate in terms of renting here in the city of Lawrence is lower, which is another benefit that the commercial have by coming here to the city of Lawrence, which is an attraction. And the other companies companies that are here already have proven. Plus, the most important thing, which is basically that I wanted to get to, is that we have the labor force in the city of Lawrence, which is a labor force that is a well-dedicated labor force that allow companies to grow by working together with the people. And essentially that's basically what I want to make sure that, and that's what I've been telling my colleagues that I have discussed this topic with. Even though we are one of those 110 communities that have a split tax rate, we have other benefit that they probably done, which it's like I just mentioned, and I'm calling out those businesses that are about to make a decision about where to go, that look at the city of Lawrence as the main opportunity to grow, because we work together, and we have people that wanted to work and willing to work, and this is basically we call them out to be here, be part of the city, be part of a successful city. And basically, that's basically what I want to come up explaining, the split tax rate and the benefit that we offer in the city of Lawrence to the people and as well as to the commercial. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Vega. Are there further questions of Mr. Vega, Mr. Ainello?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Payano, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Vega, if you could explain to us, I know I've asked this question in the past, but it's a question that always comes up amongst the residents. How does your office determine the assessed value of a property? How do you determine whether or not a property's value has increased? What if a homeowner disagrees? If you can speak to that, please.
No, absolutely. Great question. And we get it here in the office time and time again. And this is the time that folks, first of all, have the opportunity to listen to the assessors. And then ultimately what we'll do is provide them with a guidance and how they can look at the property record card and determine if they are treated fairly, equitably, and ultimately file for an appeal if they think their assessment is too high, or if their opinion of value is different than the assessor. So as I mentioned in one of the slides, it's for fiscal year 2022, the assessors and every community in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has to use any transaction that are arm's length sales in calendar year 2020. So anything that occurred for a property sale in 2020, the assessors uses in order to ultimately determine if the values for, let's say, a single family home, a cape that measures 1,500 square feet, have sold in your neighborhood or in your street. So ultimately, the folks that are buying properties out in the community are basically telling the assessors, these are what the property values are worth. And it's basically just like an appraisal. We use the similar methodologies. We use the sales comparison approach to valuation. and do our adjustments to the quality of construction, the gross living area, the neighborhood, the style, the utilities, and what we're discovering is, and we have a certain standard to meet from the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue, which is 100% of full and fair cash market value. And despite folks not doing anything to their properties, the market is in the city of Lawrence is hot, probably one of the hottest ones in the Merrimack Valley. So you're getting a huge return in your investment. And again, that's a great thing if you're looking to sell, and not so bad thing if you're not looking to sell. At least you have equity, and you can again either refinance for a lower rate, or take some money out to do some other things or some home improvements. Like 10 years ago, I was one of those folks that I was pretty much underwater. My interest rate was high. I couldn't do anything, couldn't refinance. No one would refinance me. And now those tables have turned. There's so many things and so many options I have. So when the assessors look at the sales and compare it to the prior years, what we do is do an assessment to sale ratio. So basically taking what the assessment was certified on January 1 from the prior year, look at what the property sales have been selling for of similar style homes, singles to singles, twos to twos, and do a sales ratio study. And if we do not have those 90% to 110%, that's the state's threshold, 90 to 110% of full and fair cash market value. They want you to be around 100%. So we look at that assessment sale ratio for, let's say, single family homes. And if we're below the threshold, then we have to increase it, whether it be by 8%, 10% to meet the state's minimum state standard. And that's what I do. In Lawrence, we are assessing single family homes at roughly 92% of full and fair cash market value. And, the state, the Bureau of Local Assessment, sometimes balks at us and wants me to increase those figures higher. But what I tell them is, this is the largest group of taxpayers in the city of Lawrence. They're the most, as Giovanni had mentioned, the most vulnerable, the most needy. And how can I increase values another 2-3% when I'm meeting your state standard? And it's not fair. And going back and forth and pinpointing sales and doing the analysis, they're ultimately saying, you are right. We just hope that next year you increase a little higher than the 92%. And just council is looking at these figures for this year, for calendar year 2021. We're only 10 months into the year. We're low. So we're about even increasing the values for single family homes, I believe was roughly 12%. We're back down to about 84%. So it looks like we're gonna increase property values again. It's not just for the single family homeowners, it's gonna be across the board. So we did meet the state standard this year. And again, we're gonna do that every year. They're interim year adjustments. We don't have a full revaluation for another couple of years. That's when the state needs to certify our values and are in the field and looking at our property record cards and doing a complete analysis of the city of Lawrence. So if folks are aggrieved or have a different opinion of their value, they can come into the assessor's office. January 1 to February 1st, you have a 30-day abatement period to fill out an application to appeal your valuation. Those applications are available on the City of Lawrence webpage. Click on departments and click on the assessor's office. You would have to prove that your property value is either A, lower than what the assessor's opinion of value is, or if you feel your assessment is disproportionate to similar style homes in your neighborhood. If you're a commercial property and you had a huge vacancy, you can definitely tell us that, during the calendar year 2020, you had a tremendous amount of vacancy. We'll look at those numbers and definitely have those applications into our office by February 1st. We do not have jurisdiction to act on any abatements that are submitted after February 1st, I'm sorry. And also you'll see a note on the actual tax bill, which is your third quarter bill, that says the time period to file an appeal or an abatement is, it's in English and in Spanish, is January 1 to February 1. So I hope that answered your question, Council.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have a couple more follow-ups. What type, so thank you for giving an explanation as to what an owner of a commercial property would have to, type of information that they would have to present to you for that abatement. What type of information would you be asking for a residential owner to be providing to show proof?
Yep, and on the application, it lines up, details everything that they would need. So basically, if I was a single-family homeowner appealing my valuation, and not in Lawrence, obviously I can do it, but say I own property in Methuen, I would look at 3 comparable sales that occurred within the guidelines of the state. But I'll look at 3 sales that occurred in calendar year 2020 and compare that to the assessment. So that's one portion, which is the sales comparison approach to determine an opinion of value. And the other one is disproportionate assessment. So let's say a similar style home, every house is unique, but we have, in my neighborhood, they're pretty much the same size homes. And if I see something, whether it's on the assessor's online database or we have books at the counter, if I look for in conversation, I hear that a single family homeowner pays $2,000 a year and I'm paying $3,000. Well, guess what? I'm going to look at that person's property, their assessment, and compare it to mine. And I'll do to see if there is some disproportionate assessment going on. And again, you can only use a single family, compare a single family to a single family. Try to compare it to something in your neighborhood and similar gross living area also. What else would be a good example? Sales comparison approach, disproportionate assessment, and also very important is look at your property record card. We're not 100% accurate. I might have you for, an extra room, or I might, because we couldn't get into the property, determine that the attic was finished. We could have said that there's a room in the basement partially finished. So definitely take a look at your property record card and see if there's, we're accurate. And if we're not, and you still feel your assessment is high, put the application in. We'll go out in the field and do a complete measure and list and update our property record card accordingly. But just to give you an example, Councilor, in fiscal year 2021, we did increase property value significantly, and we had around 50 abatement applications. And this is not because folks didn't know about the application process. It's that they knew that their assessment was pretty accurate. Is that they had an issue with their tax bill. And unfortunately, we do not look at an individual tax bill. Now we look at the property value on its own.
Director Vega, so my last question is around, so you talk about how you look at the value of the sales of homes. Have you found, are you seeing that like these value, are they cash sales, or are they your regular, going through a bank type of sale? Like, I'm wondering if you're seeing a lot more cash sales within the city than usual.
No, I would say regular traditional bank transactions, maybe a lot healthier down payments to meet what the bank is looking for, but not necessarily, anything that's on the market for a fair period of time that anyone's paying cash for. These are, if you're looking at anyone that's paying cash, those are, investors that are looking at rehabbing or creating more apartments on a commercial property to convert it to mixed use. But your typical residential property sale is an arm's length sale, and it's traditionally through a bank.
No further questions. Thank you so much, Director Vega.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payano. Thank you, Mr. Vega.
Mr.
Further-
Chairman, to you.
Yes, Councilor Levy.
Thank you. Mr. Vega, I have a question for you. What is the way that a people or a person can, I know that we passed an ordinance that regarding people over 65 can request an abatement of the property, you know, for free up a little bit, so that's
Sure.
the tax.
No, great question and great observation. Thank you for pointing it out. Besides the abatement process, folks can also apply for what's called a statutory exemption. And for FY22, we reduced the age qualifications from 70 years old to 65 years old, and the threshold. So there is an income and asset limitation. So I can speak on that one as well. So the annual gross receipts cannot exceed $20,000 if you are single, $30,000 if you are married. And again, all this data and information is available on the assessor's webpage, or if you want to give us a call, we can explain everything to anyone who wants to apply. And applications are available currently right now. The whole estate, and not including an individual's home, cannot exceed $40,000 if you're single and $55,000 if you're married. This amount includes all money in the checking or savings account, CDs, mutual funds, stocks, and bonds. All this is documentation is required when folks do apply for their exemption, and it's required every single year because obviously we want to make sure folks A, live there at their domicile, and B, don't exceed the threshold. The exemption amount was increased by the Lawrence City Council, as approved by Mayor Vasquez for FY22 from $500 to $750 every year. Folks can come in the assessor's office and apply. We usually typically take applications around November 1, but because of COVID, we are opening our doors and accepting applications October 1, all the way through the statutory deadline, which is April 1. So April 1st, 2022 is the deadline for folks to come into the assessor's office, file for their exemption. And the one I spoke about was the 41C, which is the $750. We also offer folks a 17D, which is no limitations on their assets. And the age requirement is the same. And the amount is $175. For veterans with a 10% disability, we also offer exemptions for those folks as well. And we do get reimbursed by the state. Those monies that we discount on an individual actual tax bill January 1 and April 1, they'll see half of it January 1 and half in April 1. And then we submit our exemption amounts and veterans amounts to the state for reimbursement. So we use the overlay account to subsidize for these tax incentives.
So this is only for people between, you say, 65 and 70 years old?
65 and older.
Oh, 65 and over. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. Thank you again, Mr. Vega.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further questions? Mr. Rodriguez. You're muted, Mr. Rodriguez.
All right. Thank you, Alex, for bringing the 41C and 17B and the fact that we as a city councilor reduced the age back then a few years ago. I remember when we were working on that project, which was very exciting, and I'm glad that it finally get funded and increased to the $750 for the 41C and $175 for the 17B, which I think that it should be a project for this council to work on 17B to increase 17B to a little bit more significant amount other than the $175. And I hope that this council eventually take on this project to benefit those 17 and older. Alex, just to in a few words and be very clear with 17B and 41C. So if anybody up there that is 65 years old or older and is making a specific amount that I would like you to repeat because you probably have it in front of you, can apply for 41C. And then the rest of the community that is 65 or older, if they don't qualify for 41C, they can qualify for 17B. Can you please specify the age and the threshold in a simple and a little bit more simplest way, so people can go ahead and apply if they qualify?
Okay, so the maximum they can qualify for is $750, which is a 41C. And that's for folks 65 years and older by July 1 of this calendar year. The gross receipts cannot exceed $20,000 if you're single, $30,000 if you are married. Your whole estate, not including your home, that's exempt, cannot exceed $40,000 if you are single and $55,000 if you're married. And again, your assets will include checking, savings, CDs, mutual funds, stocks, and bonds. So we would need to see your bank statements as of July 1. And that's a requirement every year. And then the proof of your birth certificate, the first year only. The folks don't apply, do not qualify because of their income, then they're eligible to the second tier, which is the 17D, and there's no income limitations, and the whole assets, excluding the home, cannot exceed $40,000, and that amount is $175.
Okay, so and Alex, can you, I don't know if you have the information, but I know that for the seniors, there are other programs if they work for 40 hours. Can you go through that? And that way the seniors up there, they probably go ahead and apply for that other program that we have available as well.
Absolutely. That program is available through the Senior Center, and they can contact Martha, Senior Director Martha Velez, or Laura Infante at the Senior Center, and folks can work throughout the city of Lawrence. They would fill out the application and their prior years of experience in, let's say, in financing. Maybe they can work several hours a week in one of the finance departments, treasurer, tax collector, assessor's office. Maybe they have some background filing. I think there's someone in the city clerks there that can work a certain amount of hours to qualify for $500 each year on their property tax bill. So these are for folks who are, I believe the threshold is 65 years and older. Their applications are available at the Senior Center. And let's say because of some reason due to health, they cannot work, they can definitely have a proxy work for them and earn those hours, so we can discount the $500 from their actual tax bill on January 1. So, Senior Center provided me with a listing. The city council many years ago allocated $50,000 every year to the assessors overlay account. And that's where we use our money for abatements, exemptions, and exactly how you mentioned the senior work-off program.
Okay, so and I want to make sure that people up there that is listening to this information, that it's not only if you have finance experience, it's any type of experience, right?
Correct.
Yeah, any type of experience that you've been an access to the city, and then you might be higher. So I just wanna point that out, and definitely, again, thank you, Alex, and thank you, Councilor Levy, for bringing this up. Those are very important points for the seniors, to help out with the tax bill.
Thank you.
If it's not more comments, I would like to make a motion.
There's a motion by Mr. Rodriguez to send to the full council recommendation without a recommendation.
As a committee report with no recommendation.
Second.
Mr. Rodriguez has made a motion to send to the full council as a committee report without a recommendation. It has been properly seconded by Councilor Levy. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll fit some real quick comments in here, and that is, first of all, to thank you, Mr. Vega, for your preparatory materials. I think this is my ninth, might be my ninth one, and you do make it simple, because it's not simple material. The tax factor is a bit of a mystery to some, and certainly to myself, year over year, you have questions, and I appreciate the materials, and as we all do, and the way you simplify it for us, and also answering my three colleagues' questions as they drill down on the opportunities for abatement and the various opportunities that folks can pursue through your office, and appreciate that. So with that, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll call.
Mr. Chair, the clerk is not in the Zoom. Clerk is taking minutes through Facebook, so you would have to call the roll yourself.
I am willing to do that. So I'll start with Mr. Payano.
Yes.
Ms. Levy.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Abdu votes yes. The motion passes 4-0, goes to the full council without a recommendation as a committee report.
Mr. Chair, just also as an FYI, we have already reviewed the other two items that are on the agenda. Because of that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There is a well-received motion to adjourn. It has been seconded by Ms. Levy. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will take the roll call myself. The motion is to adjourn. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
And Councilor Abdu votes yes. We stand adjourned. I thank everyone for their help tonight, and Mr. Ianello and Mr. Vega for your materials. Thank you. Have a good night.
Agreed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.